All right. Hopefully we should be good to go. Welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday, and I am very excited to be here again. I'm feeling rather festive. I can't really explain why, but I'm excited to get started with the stream, and got a few things in mind to talk about. But one thing is we're going to be working on the jam feature, which I gave a little bit of a preview to that last week. And I'm seeing a few folks in chat already. I'll give it a few minutes to catch up, because I know there's a bit of latency when the stream first starts. I'm seeing Robert, Wolf, Jauko. Wolf is jamming. The jam feature is here, and it is working. Now, the way that this works is you can see above me in the overlay that it changes the text to say that you're jamming if you type in !jam. So we see Dan's jamming, Cactus Jack is jamming, and Chalke is jamming. This is nothing serious. This is nothing meant to be anything crazy. I just thought it was a cool feature because sometimes when we're in the middle of stream, a song just comes on that I just can't help myself. I gotta start jamming. So this is gonna help. I'm seeing a few folks in chat. Potato Dude, Kishin, M7LD, Harry Cox, thank you so much for being here. Today, I don't really have anything particular in mind that I wanted to do. It's all mainly just showing off what's here and chatting. Because, whoops. 1 second. Okay. Let's take a look at what I was doing. So actually, the one thing that I'll show is that this is a feature that I worked on in the past, where you're able to show the ground like data. Will it be released for mobile? It's hard to say. Today's your birthday. Well, happy birthday to you. It's also my dad's birthday. Also, happy birthday to Papacade. Happy birthday to Christopher. So this is a feature that I showed in some of my older videos, how you can see like the tile data, and this is going to be used for a lot of the AI, or like the enemy artificial intelligence, the way that they have pathfinding and navigate around certain paths. So it's doing this by running a bunch of line of sight checks from the individual dots to the individual mobs. So in this case, like, we can see any of the pink dots are positions that have line of sight with the player, which includes these spots like behind the wall. Even these are kind of like that. Tigris, Cactus Jack. Do you use A-star algorithm for pathfinding? No, not exactly. So my pathfinding algorithm is entirely just custom made based around the engine itself, because A-star is I want to say overkill, but it's implementing it into an engine like this would be challenging just because everything's so custom. So I felt like it was nice to make a custom algorithm for pathfinding as well. This is the first time I'm able to join one of your streams in a while. I'm still busy though and might have to leave soon. No worries. Thank you for stopping in, bub. Programming boy, hi, welcome in. I'm showing off some of the data that the tiles in the game use. So, and also the other thing that's important about this is that it incorporates elevation into these checks, because you can see that, like, up here on the ledge, you can see the red dots. Red dots always represent a spot that you can't walk onto. It's like a physical wall. Whoops, what the heck happened? And you can see that you can, the higher elevation dots are represented by smaller dots, and that's why you're able to get like the green dots on top and then the pink dots on the bottom. Now, one thing that needs to be changed though, that needs to be fixed with this system, is now that you can jump up on elevated platforms, the logic doesn't account for that yet. And I need to add more logic in here where it's running these line of sight checks from on top of the elevated platforms. Because right now it's still running it from the ground, which won't work, obviously. What is the circles? Yeah, the circles are representing line of sight. So you can see, like, when I walk around these ledges, like on this side of the ledge, all these yellow and green dots, they can't see the player. So since there's no line of sight with the player, they are not pink. Only the pink dots are able to actually see the player. And the point of that is so enemies that are walking around, if an enemy is over here and it can't see the player, there's no line of sight, it would be able to use these pink dots for like navigational purposes. Nice hat, thank you so much. Love the Christmas hat. Yeah, I'm feeling rather festive today. I'm definitely in the festive mood. But what I was also saying is that it has the elevation incorporated as well, because the higher elevation dots, like these, this yellow and green dot, the yellow is the ground surface behind it, like where the player is right now. Now it's pink because it can see the player. But the green dot on top is the elevated point. Never thought about it this way. It's more that, like, I bet that a lot of algorithms do work like this, where they use line of sight checks. It's just the way I implemented it is definitely very custom and weird. I wouldn't say that the way I did it is particularly normal, but it makes sense to me. Is that I have all these objects out here, and by the way, it works with the props too, like this barrel. Is that you could potentially have stealth in the game. I don't know if I would put that in the game. It's not really the type of game that this is, but you can hide behind the barrel. Look how all these green dots and the yellow dots, they are points that can't see the player. Only the pink dots are able to see the player. And since I'm hiding behind this barrel, it's like you can't see the player when you're hiding like this. And you can see like the rotation of it as you go around. It's really, really neat. So I could see it definitely being a mechanic where certain enemies maybe are super, super hard to kill, and so you have to avoid them. And you could use little tricks like this to make sure that you're not seen. Although I would have to be careful though, because one thing that's weird is you could like push the barrel like this, and look, what if all these enemies were over here on the right, and I'm just like pushing this barrel through, and then they just can't see me because I have a barrel in front of me. I'm only worried about performance. I am also worried about performance. And let me talk about how I helped with making this as performant as possible, because you're right. If I run a line of sight check from every single point in the game to every single mob in the game, that's going to be way too expensive. It's going to cost too much performance. It's going to take too much energy from the computer to do that. And you'll start to see frame drops and lagging, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that the performance is as good as possible, that we're not losing frames. How to measure how well the game is performing? Mainly just by testing it with the frame rate. So you can see the frame rate up here in the corner. We're running at 59, 60. So as long as it's hovering around this 60 frames per second, actually right now it's dropping a couple frames per, like once in a while. I like it to stay at 60, but I think because I'm streaming right now and recording, I'm recording the stream and streaming from the same PC that I'm running the game from, it doesn't surprise me that it's dropping a few frames. That kind of makes sense, I guess. But the other way that you measure performance is just through analyzing your code. Can you suggest music? At the moment, I'm not really able to add it to the playlist, but you can definitely suggest music for me to add, and then I can get it for later streams, definitely. Yeah, go for it. Go ahead and suggest it. I'm all ears, because I'm always open to adding more music to the playlist and stuff. But the way that the overlay playlist works is it preloads the playlist into memory. Zelda music? Yeah, I mean, I got plenty of Zelda music here. What's the most hard-coded script in my game? What does the specific script control? That's a good question, because I bet there are plenty of cases where I have that. What would be a good thing to show for this? Hard-coded script. So when someone says a hard-coded script, that kind of implies that, like, the logic isn't very flexible. And I bet there are, well, definitely in the prefactor code there is. Some of this kind of is, but not really. This isn't that bad. I wouldn't call this hard-coded. maybe the folios. I think the folios probably are the most hard-coded thing. So the folios are what I made to implement... Sorry, I'm reading chat as well. Yeah, the music is a complicated subject. In fact, my playlist has changed, and a bunch of songs have come and gone over the, I guess it's only been like a year or so. But as I'm streaming, I get copyright claims on my streams from specific artists or specific developers or whoever owns the music telling me that, like, okay, we're monetizing this, so now it's like shared profit. And in those cases, we share monetization for that section of the video. And then from that point on, I don't really use that music anymore because like a lot of this Nintendo music, especially the old Nintendo music, they are okay with it being streamed on YouTube as long as it's not like just a bare bones, like as long as you're not just uploading the music and it's background music, it seems to be okay. But I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the actual rules are. All I know is that they enforce it under certain circumstances. They enforce it under certain circumstances, and then they don't enforce it under others. So it makes me believe that, like, YouTube is an ecosystem that they want to have their music available on in some ways, but they don't want people to just upload their music as like raw MP3s and stuff. That's not good. The Legend of Zelda music is copyrighted by Nintendo, meaning you can't use it freely without permission, but Nintendo's policy for content creators often will use in Let's Play videos. Yeah, exactly. Is that they are allowing people to use their music. And really, any music that's playing on my playlist that's from like a game, I'm playing it with their explicit permission. Or if they tell me I don't want you playing that music, then I won't. It's and I'm treating this how I want to be treated, because at some point I'm gonna release music for my game, and I am perfectly okay with people using my music in the same capacity that I use other people's music too. As background music for a stream or for videos, I think that's awesome. I love watching YouTube videos and hearing music that I recognize from indie games or Nintendo games. I think that's really nice. And I like the vibes of my stream too, because we get that too. How do I make tweens? Is it a library? Yes, at the moment I'm using a library called Flux. Oh, where is it? No, I got rid of it and I forgot. I have a different one. This is called Tween. Is that I noticed that the Flux library that I used to use, Flux is a tweening library for Love 2D, and it's very good. It is a good library, but I noticed that it was very old, and so I made a new version of it. It's not very long, 172 lines, and it's more lightweight. Flux works by creating a global list of tweens, but this one works by creating tween instances. So I have tween.new, and so you can have lots of different tweens running in different areas, and there's not just one global list, which is what it used to be. Sorry, I'm 15 minutes late. I'm glad you could be here. I'm trying to read your name. That's a hard name to read. Rescue Squad Culp, Morning Childcade, and Merry Holidays. Thank you. Sorry, I'm so bad at reading chat. I'm sure you guys might have noticed. Whenever I start reading something, that's when my speech starts to slur and stutter really bad. So I'm trying to work on that. Bear with me. I keep screwing up on that. Really, my biggest problem is that I talk really fast. Do I recommend Flux? Yes, I recommend Flux. I think that Flux for Love 2D is very, very good. And for the vast majority of users, it's perfect. The reason I didn't want to use Flux is because the way Flux works is it creates a global list of tweens. And I found that inconvenient because it made more sense for, let's say, Rise. This class it has a whole bunch of individual tweens. We have we have self.tween. So we have a standalone tween, and the point of this is that now this tween instance is managed completely inside of this Rise object, where when you use Flux, this tween instance is actually a global instance thing. It's not actually contained within Rise. It wouldn't be contained within Rise at all. It would be a reference to a global instance. And that was causing some problems because I mentioned in an earlier video, let me see if I can pull it up. I might be able to. In Prefactor, if this runs, I can show it. This is the old version of the game, but in this version, there was a problem where the petals that fall from the sky, they run off of tweens. We'll probably see it here in a second. So this is what like the more complete version of the game looks like. It looks way better, by the way. It's just everything's more complete. But these petals that are falling from the sky, these run by using tweens. So the tweens, the reason this is problematic is that these petals all have their own individual tweens to calculate their positions and their movement, but those tweens are not stored within the petal instance itself. It's stored globally in the flux table. And I found that annoying because when the petal deleted itself, there was a lot of extra cleanup that I would forget about sometimes. There was a bug where these petals, after deleting themselves, they would keep running their tween data because, like I said, the tween existed externally, globally. And the petals would delete themselves, but the tweens wouldn't get deleted. And I was seeing that problem pop up more and more, where just having a global list was a bit inconvenient for this large scale of a game. So I think it does make more sense for me to switch over to this new tween format that I made, where it's all instances. Everything is stored explicitly within the place that it's being used. I think that this is a lot cleaner in general. So glad I could watch the stream. They're always a delight. I'm happy you could be here. The game will be compatible with Linux. Yes, actually, that's another thing that I didn't mention is over the past week, I installed Linux on one of my computers, and I got the game running on it. So the game does run right now. Like, I ran this code on Ubuntu. So it is working. It's working on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it's in very, very good shape. I'm so happy about that. The catch is, I don't know anything about distributing software on Linux. I'm going to have to learn a lot about that. And honestly, I'm still new to distributing software on Windows and Mac as well. It's just I have a little bit more expensive with that. When I think realistically the full game is coming to Steam. Full game that's the thing is like the definition of full game has shifted so much where I'll say, dude, I don't even know, a year maybe or 2 years, who knows. But the goal isn't really to have a full game, it's to have a game that's playable that people can enjoy together and we can start making our content together. Is now that the game is more formatted in a sense like it has the level editing. How if I'm going to turn off this stuff, I can pull up this thing, and the game has a lot of customization in it now, where you can change the level layouts, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun for people to design their own stages and their own levels. So the goal for me right now is really to have the game reach a point where I can, oh god, release it and have people make content like this. Hopefully it's not as buggy as this. I have some cleanup to do. Next year GTA 6 is releasing. I mean, I hope so. That would be awesome. I know that they're scheduled to release in November. Hi and bye. Well, thank you for stopping in, OneFlex. Look at the fire. Don't you think red orange layer on top of the ground underneath fire will boost realism? Yeah, let's see. So you're talking about in the in this version, because I agree with you. This version of the code, this old version, it doesn't have any color. It doesn't have any color to the light sources, and that's a really good call out. And that's something I noticed myself too, is that the light sources in this version of the code didn't have color at all, and it was just white. So I did implement color in the new version. So let me show that. In this version of the game, there is also fire, and you can see that there is a bit of yellow to the light source. Like, compare the light source around the anvil compared to the light source around the flame. It's very subtly yellow. And I think I have to work a little bit more on this, because something about the coloration feels a little bit off. How to configure VS Code for Lua? It automatically is configured for Lua. It's too subtle. Yeah, I agree. It's too subtle. That's something that can be customized. Let me see how I have that customized. I think that's happening in effect, or actually I think I have a class for this. Flame? Fire? Fire? Fire. Jam. I'm jamming. So the way that this works is... Where's the color? Oh, here it is. Here it is. So you can change the color to whatever you want, like this. So let's give the flame, let's give it a bright green flame. This game looks so good. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm excited for it too. I'm excited for it too. I have high expectations for it. Okay, so we're gonna try out that. This is what the green light source looks like. I changed the light source from orange to green. The Shrek torch, yeah, and look how it's blending with the light source from. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can make this even easier to see, because I could go over to biome. And I'm going to change the dark... Like this, maybe? Okay. Oh, shoot. There's a bug. There's a bug when the, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So, look, I changed the dark value of the biome all the way to 1, which means it's going to be fully dark. And so that worked. Now the game window is completely dark. I think the game is still yeah, the game is still running. So if I show colliders, no, we can't see anything. The darkness really is covering up everything. How can I do this? We need to give the player a torch so that we can actually see. And the way I'm gonna do this is I'm actually just gonna weapon. Yeah, we're just gonna set it to torch like this. Okay. So now we're now we should have a torch. Okay, it did work. So we have a very, very dark scene, and we have one single light source. Does the game not have player stats? I feel like it would fit the wizard vibe. Yeah, I'm not planning to do stats in the game. It's more inspired by the Zelda vibe, where it's more item-based progression. You unlock new items and upgrades in that way rather than stats. But I do still like stats, and maybe we could have something in that sense. I want to add like a post-game roguelike mode where I add all kinds of crazy upgrades and stuff. Because one thing that I'm doing with the game currently is I'm having a lot of restraint with what features I'm adding because I don't want to add too much power creep. And with stats, I think it would be cool if there was like a side mode where you could unlock like stat upgrades and you could get super fast or super powerful, but it would only be temporary. So that way you could make like really unbalanced builds like Binding of Isaac or something and have a lot of fun in that way without breaking the whole game. Staying away from scope creep too. Yeah, in general. But like, so that plan that I just discussed about having a roguelike post game, that's something that would be after the game's released. My current goal right now is to create a tight, concise, dense, good, relatively short main game that fits everything that I've been going for. And then after that, I really think the engine of this game, like all the code that this game runs on, is so good that I'll be able to have some like extra updates, or like I was talking about, people can design their own levels and own content. I think that it would be, I think there's a lot of potential here. While I'm creating my game, I come up with many new game ideas, and because I'm sticking to the current game, I try to add the feature within this game. So I can't wait to finish the game so I create others. I'm totally with you. Is that I noticed this a lot, especially as I was starting out and growing up, is that I would get really excited by specific games, or I would go see a movie and I'd be really excited by a specific movie, and it would inspire me so much that it's like, man, I just gotta get this out there. I would start drawing pictures of it, or I would start looking up stuff online, watching videos, and sometimes I would even try making little game maker games that are inspired by it. I remember I watched a James Bond movie when I was a kid, and I thought it was so cool that I started working on a game maker James Bond like spy game. And I only spent like a couple days on it, but I remember that feeling of being so excited and so inspired by certain ideas that I'm just like, I just have to get this out there. Does my game already have caves? Kind of, yeah. Well, yes, it does. I'll go ahead and show the tile sets for it. Is that right now I'm like in between versions. I have, am I still running it? Yeah, I am. I'm in between this version. This is like the version that we're all more familiar with. This is the Steam build, but with a lot of extra details added to it. And now, this version of the code, like all of this stuff here, it's so bogged down and ugly that I kind of took a step back from this version of the code, and I'm re-implementing everything in this version where it's so much cleaner and it's going to be so much easier to work with. This idea of being able to customize the levels and have player agency and customization and creativity, that is not even close to possible in this old code base. This new code rework, like this uglier version, right? This is definitely the uglier version, but it has all these features and the code is so good that the longevity of the project is there. And what I was saying before is that there's a bug right now where when I change the dimensions of the game window, it seems to break the vignette. So like if I move this window page like up, look, it completely broke it. It just deleted the darkness when I did that. So that's really weird. I don't know why it did that. I can try and fix that. I meant like before Moonshire, like how many games that were like Moonshire. Oh, a bunch. So if you check out my channel, I released a video a month or so ago about my like Zelda fan games from when I was a kid. All the way back in 2009 is when I first started working on those. So I've been working on these like Zelda-like concepts for quite a while, but it's gone through so many different iterations and lots of different plans. And I always say to start with smaller, easier games because I learned firsthand through making those Zelda fan games that making a Zelda game is too complex for one person who's just starting out. It makes more sense to take just like one small piece of the Zelda game, like the walking around portion, or maybe being able to shoot stuff. I don't know, one small piece of it and make the game around that. That's like the only way I can see it being possible. But like at the same time though, working on that Zelda fan game, it did teach me a lot. Re-render when the game is resized. Yeah, so what I think is happening is probably in game. Well, actually, there's a resize function in main. Yeah, love resize game view. Oh, so it's restarting the view. I bet that if I get rid of this, it's gonna fix the problem, but I think I do need this for something else. Okay, so we have the darkness, and then if I shift this, okay. So that was the problem. But why is that the problem? Because that does fix it. Is now I can resize the window and the darkness doesn't break. But the question is, why does starting the game view break the darkness? It shouldn't. So let's step through this. If we go into view and we see start, so when you call start with no scale factor passed in, it just defaults, which is fine. That's what I want. Set scale, vignette set. Oh, it's resetting it. So I bet that there's somewhere else where vignette is being set properly. Oh yeah, I am definitely jamming to this. Oh, here we go. This is the problem. Is that biome needs to be reapplied, I guess. Don't know, I guess. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say function biome colon set vignette. Or I'll call it apply vignette. Because all it's doing is it's applying its settings. Game view reset. Okay, fine. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, actually, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. Because there's two places. It gets... Yeah, mine's a cheap Amazon keyboard. Well, it's like a mid-range Amazon keyboard, but like it is like an off-brand. It's not anything fancy, but it's brown switches, and I love it. I love my keyboard. I keep losing my train of thought whenever I read chat. So it's really rough. So let's see. We'll say apply darkness. Map.dark. Oh, come on. Map is a... Okay, I changed my mind. We do actually need... Oh, this is so brutal. This is so brutal because... I'm sorry I'm like flip-flopping. The problem is that I do want this function here to be... Map. Okay, let's see where biome.apply is being called. The problem is when the game gets... When the view gets resized and view restarts, it's going to call vignette set, which is going to undo the current settings for vignette. But biome here also sets the vignette. So actually, I think the problem is that biome can't set the vignette at all. I think that... This is rough. What is the origin of my player character in the game? I can actually show that. Because I have a... debug position value that we can use. So, and so when this is the origin that all the attacks come from. So that looks really weird. By the way, this is a thing I want to fix, by the way, is how when you're slashing, it looks really good when you're slashing up and to the left and to the right. But when you aim downwards and you're stabbing, it looks really strange. It doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look very good. No, I'm 29, if you're asking how old I am. Oh, and that's another thing, is that the origin point stays at the physics location, even when you're jumping. Okay, I need to fix the biome issue, because I keep... This is the problem with coding on stream, is that when you're fixing a bug, you do have to store a lot of information in your head at once. Right now, I need to store the main call of love.resize, and I need to store the game.view call of vignette, and then I also need to store all the stuff in biome. So all the stuff is in my head right now, but then I'm also trying to read chat, and I keep getting sidetracked is the problem. So the root cause of the issue is that when the screen changes size, it also reapplies the biome, which I don't want it to. I actually don't want it to. I think the problem is that view... Where is the biome being applied? The biome should not be applying... This is the core problem. The problem is that biome apply is being called whenever the window resizes, or when the... It should not be called from here. Where is it being called from? So, in main.lua, game view start is going to be called. So view start, okay. So in view start, that's where we see the vignette set. But where does biome come in? Set mix. That's not going to reset anything. we're gonna debug this. So, I don't think that this should be called. If this is being called, that's a problem. Okay. Also, that looks really funny, by the way. When I walk behind a a platform and the light source is still there. That's really weird. How many tracks do I have titled Emotions? I don't know. Do I have a bunch? I think it's just this one. Unless there's more. So we're looking at the console log. So what I'm checking to see is if that it did not. It did happen twice, though. Look at this. Look at this. It called it twice. Why did that happen? The director got initialized twice. Any reason to be updating vignette when resizing? Yes, because the vignette is sized to match the game window. So we do need to reset the vignette. That is important. I wish I was old enough to get a job. I definitely donate. Well, that's really kind of you. The game will come out eventually, and I'm sure a lot of part of it. It's definitely going to have a lot of parts that are free. Any reason to... Yeah, so let's see. Is this biome is not actually being called... It's not being updated from here, so... Okay, here's another thought. Maybe it's actually not the biome. Maybe it's not the biome's fault. I actually think it's not the biome's fault. I think that somewhere else in the game, it's calling the vignette set. I think that my step through is actually inaccurate. So I think that I shouldn't be looking for biome apply. I think I should be looking for vignette :set. But it's only happening here. Maybe there's like an update condition. How about this? We're going to see if calling vignette set changes anything. And I'm just going to make it so that when I press... I don't know. When I press N, vignette is a member of view. I think it's game.view.vignette. Game.view.vignette. You were honestly such an inspiration. Thank you for bothering to talk to your fans. I'm happy to. Thank you for being here. So for how much money has Moonshire made you, including your YouTube videos? Just an estimate. So I haven't sold any like product, and I haven't made any money from like selling any games. The YouTube channel makes about $300 a month. So you know, not very much money if I'm being honest. But that's because the game's not out yet. I think it's normal for games to not make money until they release. Since you know Lua, respond briefly. Don't get distracted by the simple question. I mean, yeah, in general, I do kind of get distracted very easily. So what I'm doing now is we're testing to see if I press N, is that going to screw everything up? And it does. It does. So I don't think it should. I wouldn't have expected this to break the vignette. I still think I'm missing something. I still think I'm missing something because what's breaking the game is vignette set. But why would setting it here break it? And also the other weird thing is that when you change the size of the screen, it calls these twice. It says director initialized and view camera initialized twice. Why is it initializing twice? That seems like a bug too. So let's see, where is self-director start happening? Director start. Is this being called in multiple places? No. So that means view :start is happening. I am really confused. The joy of debugging. Maybe use the arguments like biome colon apply here. Let's see. Well, you cornered by constant bugs. Don't you get enough of these bugs? I mean, in general, yeah. So this tile.lua isn't... I mean, I can test this too. Oh, that would be crazy. What if this is where it was happening? Because I don't use this tile.lua anymore. That'd be really crazy if this was... if this is what was causing it. So that we have that. We have this. No, that was not the problem. That's not the problem. So it has nothing to do with this. Hope you all having a good one. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Just joined the stream. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that. How do I get the motivation to work on the game? It's such a large project. I'd never be able to finish a project like this. This is all I think about. I love it. It's my one true passion, and I love working on this game. I think about it all the time. So how do I find motivation? I don't know. It's also part discipline. Is that like I just got into the habit of doing this every single day. So now it's just part of it. Where do I see myself in 10 years? I see myself doing similar stuff where I'm making games and making software. I'll definitely be making software. Like I love writing code, definitely. And I love making games, but it's possible in 10 years maybe I'll move on to something more than just games. But I definitely am going to be making games for quite a while. If you love coding, then it's not that hard. Yeah, in general, is that people like doing things that they're good at. And I am good at coding, and so I like it. Oh my gosh, Rick Carlson! Happy Moonshire Monday from Old School Geek. Thank you so much, and thank you for being a member. Thank you for the donation. That is huge. Huge. Thank you so much for the donation. Thank you so much for the support. It's people like you and the rest of you folks watching it. It really does mean a lot to me. I am making this work one day at a time, and seeing all the support from you guys, it really, really means a lot. I want to get this game out as soon as I possibly can to get people playing it, because I am so excited about it. And it seems like a lot of other folks are excited about it too. So I'm happy about that. But at the moment, I am kind of frustrated with this dumb bug that I'm experiencing. It truly is that the main reason is just that the vignette is being reset, and it says reset active default of alpha to 0.1. Oh, maybe the alpha is getting reset. What if it's this? What if it's this? While view resets, just use a set. Okay, I think that you are right about that. Is that I wasn't providing an alpha, and so it was defaulting to alpha 0.1. Yeah, that was the problem. So we discovered it at the same time. Or actually, I think that you were saying that. I didn't understand what you were referring to. So that is the problem. The problem, to clarify, is that when the vignette gets reset, which it does need to get reset whenever the window size changes. I do think that needs to happen. Or does it? Because now the biome won't reset it, will it? This isn't going to get called. Should biome apply be applied again when the window changes? Or no, I am going to make a function biome colon apply vignette, and for now I'll just keep it like this. At some point it's going to need to use the biome the stats props. Like for example, I could have a color setting for like what color is the overlay of the darkness going to be. But right now I'm just going to hard code it to black. Earlier in the stream, someone was asking what's your most hard coded script. Currently, it's this one. So then I can call self colon apply vignette, and map. Should I do that? Oh yeah, I do need map. Yeah. We do need that. Okay. Now when the view sets vignette and director start. Oh no. You know how many wishlist Moonshire has? I do, but I haven't been saying it. How long have I been working on this total? It depends on your definitions. In general, I like to say I've been working on Moonshire for like 4 or 5 years. But, you know, I have been like, it's been on and off. I've done other projects since then. And I did also work on similar projects before that too. So you could argue I started in 2009. You could argue I started when I released on Steam in 2023. So like 4-ish years, 5-ish years, it's hard to say. I think I'm starting to, I think I'm gonna be making things a little bit worse by doing it this way, because really there's multiple problems going on here. Is when the lighting changes and it gets deleted like this, it's calling this twice. It says director initialized, view camera initialized, but it says it twice. So there's definitely, there's some bug going on. Okay, let's step through this one more time and see if I'm missing something. To clarify what's happening, when the game window resizes, it's going to restart the game view. This is good because lots of things change when the game window resizes. One of the things that changes is the vignette gets reset and the director starts. Now, does it say it twice when the game starts? No, it just says director initialized, view camera initialized. But when I change the, well, now it's just like breaking my the game crash, but like in a bad way. I think what was happening is I was trying to resize the window. Here, I'll show this again. So there's the console, and I resize it, and look, it triggers it twice. Why would it trigger it twice? So there's a bug going on for sure. And let's take a look at this director. Maybe the director is screwing up. So the director is like an entity that controls the view. So does this control the vignette? No, doesn't have anything to do with the vignette. It probably should control the vignette. You know, I think the main problem is that vignette is like a floating... Vignette is a floating, just global entity. Nice hat, thank you. That can be caused by love itself, not your code. Yeah, what I think happened is, so right now, when I have the game window sitting like this, it's between two monitors, and the game breaks whenever I try to change the window between two monitors. So I should probably submit a bug report to Love for this. Yeah, look, like the game crashed. It says not responding. It's totally busted. That's really funny. And it's only doing that when it's split between two monitors at once. Let's debug that too. Okay, so now it's only on my left monitor. No problems. The game is not bugged at all. He's so good at coding that when the game crashes, it's not his fault, but the framework itself. Yep. Yep. That's true. And this isn't the first case of that either. There was another one. Wolf, I remember us talking about it where... Oh, what was the bug? It was if you are walking, and then you move the window while you're walking. Yeah, look. My hands are off the keyboard, and the player's still walking. And that's a bug with with Love 2D, or it might be a bug with Windows applications in general. But to replicate this bug, to clarify for anyone who's wondering, and I think this is a bug with all Love 2D games, by the way. You could try it with Balatro if you wanted it. But I think the way it works is if I'm walking, I'm holding down the walk button, so I'm walking, and then I change the size of the window like this. I let go of the walk button, and then I let go of the window resize. And then now it thinks I'm still walking, even though my hands are not on the keyboard anymore. And I did submit a bug report for this, and I think that'd be fun to look at. Let's go ahead and look at it. I submitted it over a year ago, though. Love 2D GitHub. This is gonna be hard to find. I don't know how I'm gonna even find it. So here's the Love 2D GitHub repo. Issues. I wonder if... Am I able to search for Chalacade? No. Author. Author is me. Hey, I found it. Okay. Love keyboard is down is incorrect after dragging the game window. And I posted this on May 16, 2024, so that was over a year ago. And Slime did respond. This appears to be fixed in Love 12. Oh, awesome! Windows eats the arrow key and turns them into Windows Move actions. When the user is holding the mouse button down on the title bar, and now that Love 12 doesn't freeze in that situation, the key state is properly updated. Yay! That's awesome. That's very good news. So that means that this bug that I just demonstrated, the bug is real, yeah, is, this will be fixed when I update the game to Love 12. But Love 12 isn't officially out yet. So he's saying that this is fixed in like the beta build, in the latest unstable build. But they'll release Love 12 at some point, and I'm going to update right away. And also, when they release Love 12, I'm going to have a lot of work on my hands, because when Love 12 comes out, Windfield is going to break. And I don't use Windfield in this new rewrite of Moonshire because of that. I wrote my new physics wrapper. I wrote physics.lua. And when Love 12 comes out, I'm going to format this file and open source it, because I genuinely believe Love 2D really needs some kind of physics wrapper to be really useful. I think Love 2D's physics module it's great, but it's so confusing to work with, and I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. Is if I pull up Love 2D physics tutorial, like if you just Google search Love 2D physics tutorial, and you click on the Love Wiki page for it, when I see all of this stuff, it's just too complex. It's complex because every physics object, this is the physics object, but you have to create a body, a shape, and a fixture, and have them all independently managed in order for this to even function. And I just think that's too complex. It makes a lot more sense to create a collider instance that incorporates all of those things and then has built-in functions that makes it really easy to work with. Another open source physics engine will be great once Windfield goes down. Yeah, I'm dedicated to that, because I'm so confident. Like, some people have told me that I should just ditch Windfield and ditch any physics wrapper and just use this like physics module built into Love 2D. And I do, but like you really do need a bunch of these functions, like ignore rules and let's see, this is some Z buffer, this is callback functions. Some of this isn't fully necessary. Actually, some of this stuff is kind of custom. I would say a lot of this stuff is not something I would include through here. I wouldn't include this in the open source version. I would include this maybe as an external file. I just came from my demo. It was amazing. Awesome. Thank you for saying that. Love the jump, but I think it would be nice for every main area that seems to require jump. where there was an alternate route to get past it and have a grounded or earthbound achievement. Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. For sure, what I want to do is have it so, like, the game has lots of jumps. 1 second. So you can do a regular jump and jump up on platforms like this. But, you know, like, a regular jump is not tall enough, is not high enough to get up on top of this taller platform. It's tall enough to get up on this one, and then up on this one. So, what I want to do is make it so the triple jump, the tech, like this long jump, I want the long jump to be fully optional. It's just something that you can use to get around faster, or maybe do some shortcuts. In a similar way that a standard user would jump up here and jump up here, a speedrunner could use the triple jump and go boop, 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 and then triple jump up onto this. So I think it's cool to have a combination of all those things. That triple jump, I don't want the triple jump to be mandatory at all. I want that to be fully optional, just useful for sequence breaking or speed run or just an extra route to get around. Or that, like what I just did there is it's too tall to jump up on this platform like this, but if I push this barrel over here, I can bounce off of it and get up here. Does my game have a story? Yes, it has a story, but like it's very lightweight until the gameplay is in place, because the story needs to suit the game, and the game shouldn't really suit, not the other way around. It's more like I like to write the story after having the gameplay elements in place, because then the story can perfectly suit the game. Still feel like the shadow could be polished. Yeah, I agree with you there. Is the shadow for the platforms could be polished, and then also the shadow for the player, because like this looks weird how the shadow is halfway off of the platform, but I don't have a good solution to that. People are saying, oh, you should split it up into two sprites, but you can't do that. It's not an option. Because, like, look at the shadow sprite right now. The shadow sprite sticks below the player. Yeah, use a mask. Is that it would need to be some kind of programmatic shader to decide exactly where to cut it off. And I don't know about that. We'll have to see. Hopes and dreams. Yeah, oh, totally. This is the jam for me, for sure. Maybe let the shadow shrink or lose opacity close to the edge like that. Maybe. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, like the way it bounces between elevations like this is pretty bad. We're in complete agreement there. Yeah. It would look a lot better if the shadow actually went down to here. And you could see it at both places, rather than it just being at one place. That's the core problem. The question is, if I did use a mask, how do I make that look good? Because it would have to be masked specifically to the sprite itself. I could mask it to the field. Like, look at this purple line. I could mask it to the purple line, but it would not be perfect, because the purple line is a straight line, and you would see the imperfections with the divots and stuff. I don't think that would work. Change the torch lighting from green to yellow. Yeah, do I still have that? Yeah, it's very green. I don't know if you said already, but what did I think of the Game Awards? I watched the Game Awards and I thought they were great. The Divinity trailer was insanely cool, and Clair Obscur won, which I'm not surprised by. I think it deserved it. It was super, super good and was made by a small team. I think it's awesome. So overall, I'm very happy with the Game Awards. That was great. There has been... I don't even want to get into that. I was going to say that there's been drama involving... Yeah, we're not going to get into that. We're just gonna enjoy the good vibes. And we're going to jam. Because I love Yoshi's Island music. Or Yoshi's Story. Or this is actually this is Yoshi's Island, sorry. I couldn't read it. I don't have OBS up. I can't see my, I wasn't even able to see my song ID. Why do I use Love to D specifically? It's just because I tried out a bunch of the frameworks and engines, and I liked it the most. The only reason why I chose it is just because I like it. That's the main reason. I miss Pixely games. Yeah, I do too. I'm excited to have more of them out there with like mine. Did I fix the that biome issue? I don't think I ever did. What program I use to make music? I use FL Studio. Can you export that as an APK? It's a process, but yes. Yes, Love2D supports Android. It's not as easy as that sounds. There is no export to Android button. There is an export to Android process. And when I say process, it's a process. And publishing it on Android is an even bigger process. One that is so insurmountable that my games are not even on the Android marketplace or the Google Play Store, because it is very hard. Mobile development is very hard, and the barrier to entry to mobile is higher today than it was back when I was a kid. When I was in college, I posted apps to the App Store and to Google Play, and it was just a fun little thing. You can't really do that anymore. Because if you want your game or anything on Google Play or iOS, you have to forfeit your privacy. You have to share your personal address, you have to share your personal phone number, and your email address. And I don't think people should be sharing that information with the world. I don't think that you should post that online. But if you want an app posted, you have to have that information publicly available. So that's why my apps are not on there. Is the code encrypted? Not by default, no. And you have to use your own encryption methods in order to make that work. I think I'm going to change how the vignette works. So right now we have vignette set, but I don't think I want to do that. I am going to do, well, I do want to do that, but I'm going to have function vignette colon set alpha, and then function vignette set color. Okay, so now in biome, I'm not going to call game.view.vignette set. I'm going to call these individual values. Set color. Like this. Like this. And I think that will fix the problem. Barry, Merry Christmas, thank you. Okay, let's see if that fixed it. No, it didn't. I think the problem actually was that somewhere else this is still resetting it. Thoughts on using entity component system? Yeah, I mean, what I use is kind of similar to an entity component system. Really, entity component system is just like objects have their own set of objects, which each have their own set of states. As far as I know, you know, if I'm being honest, entity component system, that's an academic term that I honestly don't even remember what that means, if I'm being honest. So I imagine that what I'm doing here is similar, but I actually can't quite remember what entity component system specifically means in this term, or in this sense. I didn't even realize it's MOONSHIRE Monday. Yeah. Ads during stream is diabolical. I have it set to the lowest possible amount of ads. Is there hostile mobs? In this version of the game, no. But in the older version, there is. I'm still not sure what the deal is. Well, actually, no, the deal is not. The deal isn't with biome. Like, these changes here aren't going to fix anything. The problem is that vignette is getting set when level loads. So, does vignette not even need to be set? I think it does need to be set. Let's see what happens when I just do this. When I just don't set it when view starts. Well, it does need to be set when the view loads, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so we're here. I fixed it, but like... I think that really is the root problem, is that I don't need to be calling this, because let me look at this again. The way vignette is calculated... thoughts about a shield? I'm actually anti-shield. I would add a shield if it was like an offensive shield. Yeah, actually, the vignette doesn't have any, like, view-specific stuff. So I'm going to change my mind. I don't actually think the vignette needs to be set in view. It can be set via biome, because biome gets set... Well, now I kind of think I want to have this back to how it was. I think I am going to change this back to how it was, and we don't need these either. I'm going to keep them, but we don't need those right now. I don't think we need this. I think that the core problem is that I was resetting the vignette every time the view changed sizes. And that actually isn't necessary, because all the vignette settings are applied when the level starts. And it seems that it naturally adapts to the size, so I don't think I need to even be calling this. And we can check this out. No, that broke it, because now there's no darkness at all. Did I not save last time? I broke the game. What did I do? I broke the game. I'm big dumb. Oh, Dark Knight. You got removed. I see. Oh, is there no undo button? That's a funny thing to mention, is that what I just did right now is I reverted all of my changes for biome.lua, because I made a bunch of changes down here, but I forgot that I also made this one change up here. So what I did is I clicked this undo button, discard changes, and what that does is it takes every change that currently has been applied to biome and it reverts it back to what it was before I made any of those changes. And there is no undo button for that operation. When you revert a change, it is permanently reverted. But that's the whole point, is that you are able to experiment with things and then just get rid of them. If you try to code with no experience. We're gonna change this to 1 and then save and then go over here. So here's the darkness. Oh my gosh, it still broke. What happened? Oh, I forgot that. I forgot that. Do you yourself play any instruments? Yes, I do. I play guitar, and I play bass, and I play saxophone. I've been thinking about playing guitar on stream at some point. I just don't know what song I would play. So we're gonna call this good, where it's just not resetting the vignette every time the screen changes. Oh, also vignette. And play my OST. Yeah, I probably should. Yeah, the town song kind of sounds like that. Play something from Hollow Knight soundtrack. Okay, how about it, for next week? I'm gonna try and think of a song that's video game related that I could play that's not super cringy. Because that's the other thing, is that I've thought of some songs. I'm like, oh, I can't play that because it'd be cringy. Something from Hollow Knight would be awesome. That's a really good idea. Minecraft. I see. The thing is, I haven't played much Minecraft. I don't know much of the music. But do I make a living with game development? That's not too personal. That's a perfectly good question. But no, the answer is no, I don't. Last of Us main theme. That's a really good one. So I don't make money off of game development. I have some income coming in from YouTube and some coming in from Udemy, but it is not substantial. In fact, it doesn't even pay my bills. I'm in the red every month in terms of like this business, but I was a software developer before I went full-time with this. And I was very methodical with my savings, and I have enough to finish off the rest of this game. I'll be okay. But I am still mindful of money, and I do want to build up like the support and the business side of this, of what I'm doing here, so that I can have like a stable income and that I'm not in the red. That's my primary goal right now in terms of finances, is I'm okay like long-term stably, but I'm not okay in terms of like expanding and doing cooler things. And also like I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and rent's going up every year. I do need to start making money at some point. This is something that just does need to happen. But what I'm getting at is game development for me is not much of a income career. It's more of a creative career. My income career was as a software developer, and I was very passionate about that as well. But I care a lot about like this creative stuff and making games and all that stuff. Have I ever played Rain World? It has a great soundtrack. Yeah, I actually did play Rain World, but I got filtered out. I couldn't get into it, which is so sad because Rain World is awesome. Or, yeah, I was like, am I thinking of Rain World or Risk of Rain? Rain World is the one where you're like the cat slug. And I got filtered out because, like, you play through that game, then you get eaten, and then you have to restart, and then you play around some more, and then you get eaten again, and you have to restart again. So I was like, I didn't have the patience, is all that happened. Have I played Amori? No, I haven't played it, but I watched, what is it, the Urich Salad Bar video talking about it, and it seemed really cool. I think that I would like it, because I like Earthbound, and I like the style of it. I look like a sax player? Yeah, I totally do. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Did I play Animal Well? Yes, I did. I love Animal Well. I didn't dig deep into it. I beat Animal Well, but if you played Animal Well, you know that you didn't beat Animal Well if you just beat it. If I make my game for 50 cents, and it's as good as yours, could I make money off of it? That's a hard question to answer. It's not just about the price, because, like, people sell apps on the App Store for $1 all the time. But I don't think all of those people are enough to... I don't know if all of those people are making a living off of those dollar apps. And same with Steam. Just because a game is cheap, it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to make money. And my example of that is a game like Concord. That's an extreme example. But Concord is a game that came out and it failed immediately. And the thought was, oh, well, maybe they should have just released it for free. Is like maybe Concord failed because they were charging $40 for it. But the evidence against that is that they had a free public beta that was free. And the difference between a game being free and a single dollar is, you are totally right, is that that filters out so many people. Just putting in the credit card information, that's enough to keep people from playing the game, totally. And this is why microtransactions are common. It definitely is that it having an upfront barrier that prevents people from getting into your ecosystem, that is a very big hindrance for moneymakers, as it turns out. But even if you make your game free, that's not a guarantee that you're going to get a lot of users, even if your product is good. And my example of that is Concord. Concord was fine. You could even say it was good at times, but it just wasn't good enough. Even when they had a free open beta weekend, they weren't seeing hardly any players, just because it's more, there's more to it than that. So if I make my game paid, should I not make in-game purchases? I don't think there's any set rules to this. It's all about the level of quality that you're bringing. The truth is, you should charge how much money the game is worth, and if you have extra DLC within the game that you feel has value, then you should charge for that. You should not go online and say, well, because of X, Y, and Z, I should charge money. There's no arbitrary rules for this. You should decide for yourself how much is the game worth and how much are people willing to pay for it. And also, you have to take your emotions out of it. The real question is how much is people willing to pay for it. It's really easy to get caught up in the emotions of it and say, like for me, I worked 5 years on this game. I worked 5 years. I deserve to be paid $20 for this game. Nope, that's not how the market works. You can't go into it with a sense of entitlement. The truth is, people are only going to pay how much they feel it's worth. Just because you worked 5 years on it doesn't mean it's worth more. And just because it's solo developed doesn't mean it's worth more. The truth is, we're all competing with big corporations. If you're selling your game for $20 or $10 or whatever it is, even 50 cents, you're competing with all the other games that are being charged that much. And that's all that it comes down to. Could you explain your advanced customization video? I'm an A-sprite making a base human model, and I'm trying to figure out all the layering and stuff, so when I put it into Godot. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So if I pull up the sprite sheet for that. Okay, so this is my example with the player. You'll notice that it's using all red shading, and that's because the way that I do the color swapping now is I use these red colors as the identifier. I have a shader in my code that will take certain color schemes and replace them with other color schemes. So in my case, I'm designing my character with these red color schemes, and any particular layer can be replaced with any of these other color schemes. So if I have a red body, you can easily swap it out with the purple color scheme by just swapping the LMMS colors. So also over in this, it's more than just one image. Like you were saying, it's layers. I have all of these different layers. I have the eye layer, I have the head layer, I have the body layer, I have the arm. I also have an alternate arm. This is the arm that's when you're holding a weapon, and this is the arm when you're not holding a weapon. I also have feet, or no, sorry, this is the belly and the feet. So all of those layers get drawn every single frame. It individually draws each of these layers one by one, and for each one, it applies the appropriate color scheme to that layer, which is why, like, even though this sprite sheet shows that the player has red eyes and red feet, the game doesn't have that because you can have different color schemes applied to different parts of the player. That's why the feet are gray and the eyes are white. And also, I'm going to remove all of this darkness. It's way too dark now. So you create a singular body base, which allows you to change it with a RGB code in your scripter. Do you know if this applies to Godot as well? Also, did you make the animations differently, then put them into the sprite sheet, or did you unmake a sheet, then draw them all in? So, I do know that Godot supports palette swaps. It definitely supports palette swaps because I just watched a video, I think it was from O & Co Games. I think it's the guys that are making that, like, Psychic game. And they're using Godot, and they have enemies in that game where, like, they have a weak enemy at the beginning of the game, but then they take that same enemy and put it at the end of the game with, like, a red palette swap. And they're using Godot. They showed all of that stuff. And then, do I make the animations differently and put them in a sprite sheet? In general, I think it's better to do it that way, because when you draw your animations separately like this, you can use the framing features. Like, let's say I wanted to draw, I'll draw a little animation. I'll draw a little slime character. And then I'll paint him blue. And then we'll give him some cute little eyes. Or I'll make him a little bit different. I'll make him angry. Okay? Oh, really? That's so funny. So the reason why I think it's good to separate it out at first is because then I can do something like this. I can use the frame feature, and then I can like squish him in, make him jump, and then we'll add another frame. And then when you use the frame feature, it allows you to test the animation a little bit better. Because I can actually see it in action like this. Whereas when I'm looking at this sprite sheet here, like the walking animation, I can't really see the walking animation in action unless I had it like over in a thing like this. Yeah, in my overlay, I have a specific sensor. Why is sheet censored? Maybe, here, how about this? I'm gonna pull up the censorship list because the way I have censorship works is I have a big CSV full of bad words. It literally just filters those out manually. So I'm gonna see if I can find that. I'm not gonna show it on stream, obviously, because it's a bunch of swear words. Okay, so here's the Chat folder, and I have this censor.csv, and this is a very large, actually it's not very large, it's 15 kilobytes, but that's like 1,500 bad words. And I'm gonna go ahead and open it up and check it out, but I can't show it, obviously, because it's just bad words. Okay, and now I'm gonna see if the word sheet is in there. Okay. I found it. These are the these are the words that that it's censoring. I think it's like I think it's like shit, that sort of thing. That's what I think it's censoring. But that's stupid. I'm just gonna remove those from. I'm just gonna. Oh my gosh, there's some really bad ones in here. Okay. Now, in order to make this work, I need to go into OBS, and I need to. So this is the this. It's really hard to see. It's so tiny, but there's this censor filter, and it says 1,479 words. So I think I can turn this off and then turn it back on. And then now does it work? Can someone say sheet? Does that work? Yay! Okay, we can all say sheet now. Oh, that's so funny. I love that. We can swear now? No, you can't swear now. You can just say sheet. That's the only thing. You can see on stream that some people who are saying bad words are getting censored still, so it does still work. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna delete this guy. He's gone. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Can I get it back? I can. Good. What I was gonna say is that once you have the animation like working in this frame by frame mode, then Sprite has a really good This is some good sheet. Yeah, it is. Now you can export as sprite sheet. Can you imagine if I couldn't say sprite sheet on my own stream? So before music sheet, yeah, exactly. It probably would have censored sprite sheet too. So you can export sprite sheet, and you can see that it actually organizes it in the sprite sheet format. And then once you export it, you can just copy it and put it over into the other thing. Okay, Cactus Jack, that one definitely got censored. I don't even know what you said because it censored it. It censored it through YouTube too. But like when it comes to a censor, I didn't want to have some kind of like bot that was deleting messages, because I think it's a bit overkill to censor profanity, because most people don't care. The vast majority of people don't care, but parents care and kids care. So I wanted to give people an option to view the stream without any swear words, where like the video itself, now the overlay is not going to show any swear words. But, and also I don't say swear words myself, so it's a pretty family friendly stream. But if you have the chat open, like on YouTube, there's not any way for me to censor that without like putting in some really, really overbearing like chat deleting things, and I don't want to do that. Why'd I kill Sheet the Slime? Probably just because he wasn't doing too much. He wasn't too helpful. I guess I can bring him back up. He's just like, he's not animated very well. Do I have an intro to your game, like Wise Mystical Slime? I do have an intro to the game. I can't show it right now, but I do. Wolf has seen it. There's a new cutscene involving the... It's just kind of like laying out the groundwork for the game without being too annoying. Because a lot of games have this problem where they have like a big long opening cutscene or like a big wall of text, like Star Wars scrolling text. Nobody wants to see that. That's just overbearing. So like the Steam demo, that does have an intro text thing to kind of set the scene, but it's super short. It's nothing big. And the new intro that I made is also very short. It's just like I wanted to keep it as very short and sweet as possible. The intro isn't even in the Steam demo. Yeah, exactly. That is overkill. For some people, it's not overkill. That intro is like a year old. It is. I never even released it. Yeah, that intro that I'm talking about, I never released it. I think that it's just secret. When you censor damn, it looks so much worse. I suppose you're right. Maybe I should. Maybe I should uncensor that one. I'll think about that, because you're right. D*** does look worse than just the word damn. But I'll think about that. Howdy and happy holidays. Yeah, thank you. I was showing off the sprite sheet for the player earlier because someone was asking about the different layers. The way the player works is each layer is split up and gets drawn individually. And it's all red, which makes it really nice. Tips on animating. It does help a lot doing this method of having the frame by frame available, because the way I animated this is I just took this frame, copied it, and then changed it slightly. The other tip I have on animating is making sure that your sprites don't grow in size. So for example, this is an example of a bad animation between this frame and this frame, because you can see that the slime just gets bigger. The slime gets bigger when it moves from here to here. It should not get bigger ever. It should get wider or taller. It should squish and stretch, but the size of the slime shouldn't change. Oh, whoops! That was the wrong. That was the wrong sprite. I wanted to change this one. I wanted to make this one shorter. So now it looks like he's like squished down. And he's not changing sizes anymore. He's just like flatter in this frame, and he bounces up. That's a really big thing with all of my sprites, and I'll pull up a better sprite, because that's one that I just barely even worked on. How about, whoops, like this slime. The slime's a really good example because it shows that the slime has lots of different shapes. But you can still tell it's still roughly the same amount of slime. Like, if you put this slime, like let's say that the slime was just like a bag of water. If you poured out the bag of water for this one versus this one versus this one versus this one, it should all roughly be the same amount of water. Now, whoops, this last one looks a little bit smaller than the rest, but it's all roughly similar. And I point this out because when I started animating, it was hard for me to grasp that, where I would say like, okay, if something is crouched, it should just be like, it could be like bigger. Where I would just have like this sprite over here. Come on. See, even just 1 pixel difference on this sprite up here makes it look too big compared to the next sprite over. And if we were to show it in an animation, it would be even more noticeable. So that's why that's one of the biggest tricks I think for animation, is making sure that the size consistency is the same. That's cursed. When animating shapes that stretch and squish, the total perceived volume should be roughly the same. Yes, exactly. I made a cloud enemy animation, and when it's charging its attack, my inhaling air at the end, it gets bigger. That makes sense. Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to expand and make the size bigger when, like, it thematically makes sense. So yeah, something vacuuming up and actually gaining size, of course. I'm wondering if I'm going to try and pull up some of the older sprites from the old version of the game and seeing if I can find more animation examples. Because I do have some people helping me with animation, but like this sprite sheet here, I animated this entirely myself. This one was animated by Ellie. I didn't animate this. I guess this is a good example of wind up and slashing. So this animation here, where he raises his leaf and then slashes. This is a technique I use in my game a lot, where this is the wind up frame, this is the slash frame. There you don't even see the frame of when it's like actively slashing. That all happens via effects. So I can show this on the player too. The sword moves from the wind-up frame to the slash frame, and that's how my animations do their attacks. Is this character is winding up for the slash and follows through for the slash, and we make it look like it's slashing by spawning one of these like big slash effects. Previous message didn't show up in the stream overlay. Why? I'm not sure. I'm sorry to hear that. Any advice on coming up with commission prices for something like NPC sprite creation? I think it's all based on I wish I had better advice for that, because when I hired because I hire a bunch of pixel artists, and we all started with just I'm sorry, I don't have a good advice for that, other than make sure you're valuing your work appropriately. And when you're starting out, it's okay to lowball yourself when you're starting out, because if you're starting like a new business, I know that doing commission work is a small scale business, but if you don't have any business behind you, like you've never served a customer before, I think it's okay to charge really low just to get your foot in the door. Say like, I'll make $10 sprites for you, or I can design enemies for free, and then the next one will be charged, or something like that. Because at this point, when you're starting out, you should value experience as well as money. Making money is important, but it's hard to make money when you're starting out, and so experience is super valuable. That's why, like with game development, I'll answer your question in the same way that I would answer the question in terms of game development. If someone came to me and said, how much should I be charging for my games when I'm starting out? My answer would be, don't charge at all. You should just get people playing your games to get feedback and build a community. And once you're more established and understand the economy of all this stuff, then you can start charging to make money based on those skills that you've been building up. But it's easy for me to say that when you don't have bills to pay. Everyone has bills to pay. It's just paying your bills off of commission work, I don't think is feasible. It's so hard and so stressful. I don't think that you should go for that. Instead, work on building up your skills and building up a reputation. And also, it's a skill itself to work with people. I work with artists a lot, and some of them, all the artists that I work with today are great. But in the past, like several years ago, there were a couple that I reached out to, and they were just so bad to work with. Even if their art was good, not worth it. So even if you're a good artist, you might not be a good like collaborator, and that itself takes a lot of skill. So that's another reason why you should just jump into it and not worry about the pricing as much while you're starting. But again, if you have bills to pay, it's easy for me to say that. I just think it's going to be a lot slower of a process if you're charging money. You will get fewer customers. With my game Necrozone, I just released it for free because I wanted people to play it. I think that I could have charged $1 or I could have had ads in it, but I was more concerned with getting people playing it. I wanted to have people playing my game. That mattered more to me than making money. I'm trapped by golden handcuffs. The day job pays very well, but demands most of my creative energy and time. Dude, I relate to that so hard. I've heard the term golden handcuffs a lot. For people who don't know what golden handcuffs is, it means that you have the temptation and even the ability to quit your job and work full time on whatever you want. You have that freedom, you have that independence, but the situation that you're in is so good of an opportunity to pass up. The temptation to leave is over. It's so hard to make that step because there's so many benefits of being a working person. When I quit my job, the opportunity cost of quitting your job is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because right now I'm not making a paycheck when I could be making a paycheck. And paychecks for software developers is very high. So it's a very, like they call it golden handcuffs because you feel trapped, but it's a good kind of trapped because you're trapped in a good paying position. But good is subjective. It's good that you're being paid and you can pay your bills, but it's not good that you feel trapped, and it's not good that you can't spend your free time doing what you want. And like that's a huge mental hurdle that a lot of people deal with. It beyond just game developers. It was easier for me because I'm a single guy and I just rent an apartment. I don't have any dependents. It's an easier step to make when no one else is reliant on you. People out there have families and they have mouths to feed. It's definitely a scarier step. And even when you don't have dependents and you're just like reaching retirement age, my dad is in that phase right now where he's like thinking about it, but there's still time. And it's going to be a really hard step to take that leap because you're giving up a big paycheck and going into financial independence mode. So it's sort of a bittersweet feeling. It's that feeling of you want to be creative, you want to spend your time doing what you want, but you also want to make enough money to live. I've only been at this job since May of 2002. That's a long time. I still enjoy it, so it's all good. It'll take me 8 years to finish the game. You said only since 2002. That is a very long tenure at a company. I'm excited for you to have that successful of a career. They clearly like you at that company. You called it golden handcuffs for a reason. They want you to stay because you're doing good work. Exactly. That's older than a lot of people in the audience, for sure. One thing about being in a job is someone else expects things from me, which motivates me to do stuff. I have that problem right now. Is if I'm being 100% honest, the total amount of work that I got done in one day while I was employed, is more than the total amount of work that I get done now. Because before, I had people I was answering to. I had multiple managers, and I had multiple clients. I had multiple colleagues that I had to answer to as well. I had so many people that I was trying to make happy that that is a big incentive to get your work done. And with this game, I do still have that incentive. I have all of you guys pushing me, and I have the Discord server, and I have my own personal motivations. But at the same time, I don't have like someone actually breathing down my neck and telling me like, you have to have this done, otherwise it's over. And I never had that at my jobs, by the way. I was never threatened to be fired. That's never happened. But that is something in the back of our minds, is that we need to perform well, otherwise they're going to choose to let us go. I remember working with a somewhat old lady who had been there since right before my mom's birth. That is wild, yeah. By the way, we use Azure services for part of our software system. Awesome, that's cool to hear. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Azure. I use Azure still. I use Azure for my own personal sites. If you go on Chalcade.com or syntaxstation.com. That's something that I did over the last week too, is I redid Syntax Station. So I have a website called syntaxstation.com, which this is a website that I made when I first released my Udemy course. So this would have come out in 2017. So in 2017, I released Syntax Station, and it didn't look like this. It looked worse. But the whole point of me releasing this website was, one, I wanted to practice making and publishing a website, and that's why I made it back in the day. And two, the Udemy course, ideally, I wanted to have a reference. So like the course was about Lua, and I wanted a point that I wanted a site that I could go back to and easily point to all of these like really easy fundamentals. And I do still think this is useful. And really, if I was going back and starting from scratch, like with one of these languages, I know all these languages, so I don't know. JavaScript I know the least, let's say. Well, that's not even true. I know TypeScript. So C I know the least. If I was going back and I was trying to write a C program and I didn't want to cheat in any way, I wanted to actually build up my C skills as best as possible, I would not use AI. I would write some simple programs, and I would use this page as a reference. I would say, okay, this is how you write integers, and this is how you do strings. They're an array of characters, apparently. That's crazy. It's very, very cool. I remember doing this when I was in college and learning about arrays of characters, and I'm like, that's really dumb. I'm glad Java has strings. And now I don't like Java either. That's so real. I work at Amazon as an SDE and do game dev in the morning. Since no one is forcing me, some days I just screw off and play music or games. Hard to be consistent without an audience. I'm totally with you. That is definitely a factor. And for any of you guys that are currently employed, I don't want to scare you, and I don't think this is something that's actually a problem. But one thing that you should check on is check your contract to verify that your employer doesn't have immediate ownership of all your software products. Because this is something that certain SDE and software engineering positions have, where there's a clause in your contract or in your agreement that says like all the work that you're doing during this period, like during your salaried period, is going to be owned by the corporation that you're working for. And, you know, controversial, debatable, and it's also debatable on if they'd even enforce something like that. But that is something I considered and I looked into, and for my job, it kind of seemed like it was a factor. It seemed like that was something that I needed to be at least mindful of. Isn't that what happened with Tetris? Really? Oh no. Surely this just doesn't extend to personal projects? It does. It does. Anything I do for using work stuff is owned by employer. Surely this doesn't extend to personal projects. Unfortunately, I think it does. Because, and this is what I mean, is you should check on that. I shouldn't say it does, because I think it's going to depend from place to place, from contract to contract, and maybe even from person to person and situation to situation. I also think it's unlikely that any of these companies would enforce that clause. I think it's unlikely that a big corporation would see that one of its employees is developing a small personal game and try to assume ownership of it. I don't think that would happen. But like Wolf said, it is possible. Like, what if you made a small game and it took off and it started making money, and then your employer found out, oh, you were making this game while you were on the clock. You were doing it while you were salaried under our position. This is actually our game. It's probably only if you strike absolute gold. Well, do you want to take that risk? I think that you should still develop games while you're employed, because I still have not released my game. I'm not even close. I think that you should develop games, build up the skills, build up an audience, build up a portfolio, and if you feel that you are onto something that could make money, then yeah, I think that it's worth looking into that contract clause. But while you're just doing personal projects, I don't think you have anything to worry about. Everyone who works at tech companies does personal projects. They work on little things. But in terms of like a business, I think that if you are a salaried software developer for one business, and in your free time you are writing software and selling it under a different business, I think that HR would have problems with that. I think that there are companies that would not like that. And video games are software. So if you're a software developer by day and by night you're developing your own software and selling it under a different name, I do think that could potentially be problematic for some companies. How do I feel about Gemini's new Canvas feature? I haven't tried it. I should try that. Is Canvas just where it shows... Oh, I did see that. That was from their they had some like AI IDE where it shows like the real-time web page, and you can like click on it and you can like circle elements. That's really, really cool. Since I have been using AI for my game and learning, I'm planning for it to be non-commercial, also using some assets with that requirement. I'm not sure what the connection is, AI and non-commercial. You can still use it commercially. If I wrote a competing accounting software package for in my spare time, that could be problematic. I agree, but I also wonder, Rick, like, your company, it sounds like, doesn't make games. And if you made a game, I think it's very, very, very unlikely that they would care and that they would try to assume ownership of it. I am wondering, though, if there is some weird legal loophole in the agreement or the contract that does give them the right to do that. I don't think that they would. I really don't think that they would. But I'm wondering if these contracts are written in a way where they could. Just found out about your game today and I'm loving it. Awesome. I'm going to download the demo and play with it with my sis today. Cool. That's awesome to hear. Thank you. If I wrote a game that the president would cheer me on, that's so cool to hear. I'm happy to hear that, and that's cool to hear. And that's what I mean is that every company is different, and every company has different work cultures, and every contract is different. So it's all going to be case by case. All that I know is that when I was working, I remember looking into this, and I remember being concerned by what I found. I don't remember specifically what the terms were, but I remember the terms that I found were concerning. They were enough to make me not be super comfortable with it. Oh, I mean, like, it's not something I'm willing to call the game. I will ask money for since I'm learning AI usage building on it as a prime reason. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, you're saying that that your project is a learning project, like a project that's meant to build up your skills, and I think that's fantastic. I have tons of projects like that. That's exactly it. I am forbid from working for profit while employed. It's a stifling clause, but should be okay as long as I'm not employed by another entity. Very good point. Yeah, all I'm getting at is that it's a it's an iffy, wishy-washy part of this whole discussion, is that it's not fully clear. And I think that since it's case by case, it's important for everyone to check on that. But I already have tons of ideas for future projects, which I will want to monetize. Dolly, yeah, go for it. Your game looks very cool. We'll be playing demo and waiting for release. Awesome, thank you for that. I recently saw someone release a black hole feeding game and made 200K, and it's not that complicated a game too. It does take a good idea, but it also takes good execution. This black hole feeding game, that sounds interesting. I feel like when a game really takes off, the idea is good, but the execution also has to be good. Like, a black hole feeding game made by someone who's only been coding for like a month isn't going to be very good. Even a year. I think, how about this? A black hole feeding game made by a programmer of 1 year versus a black hole game made by a game developer who's been programming and making games for 5 years. The black hole game made by the second person is going to be better. And that's the market of ideas. Everything's a competition. Even if your idea is good, you're going to be competing with other ideas that are also good, and if their execution is better than your execution, it doesn't matter. They're just going to win. It's a duo and spent 1,000 hours collectively. That's a sign of a good game. Or, I mean, it's a sign of a passion and effort. I didn't realize those numbers existed for indies. I showed Wolf had me look at the Steam replay. Here's my Steam replay for Moonshire, where it tells you the number of sessions played. It says that I launched the game 2,600 times, which is so funny. And also the other funny thing is you can see, like, once July and August hits, that's when it stops. That's when it toned down. That's when I switched over to the new code base. That's when I started working on the other one, and it switched to a different branch, and so it wasn't launching in the Moonshire demo anymore. So really, this number should be almost double, because for half of the year, literally half the year, it wasn't tracking any of the launches, which is pretty funny. Yeah, but Wolf sent me this. That one of the developers from Eugenics had 9,000 sessions. That is so funny. That's really cool. I'm back. What I missed? Not much. My experience as a paid professional game developer was back in the early 90s. Wow! Assembly language and EP EPROMs. Things are much better now. That's the first time I've ever seen EPO or ROMS. Is it EP ROMs? EP read-only memories. Can you explain what that is? I'm actually not familiar. What do you think of AI sprite slash sounds in my game? I'm building a company and it takes 90% of my time. I don't think I have the energy to learn how to draw before I build something playable. My only advice is games need to look good, and you need to produce good artwork, and you need to produce good sounds. If you are able to produce good sprites and good sounds and execute it in a way that produces a very good game that people will like to play, I think that that's the answer to your question. But that is me beating around the bush. I think that a lot of people will have problems with AI-generated assets, but I don't know how to properly answer that question in terms of like a broader scale. I do think in the long term, though, it's just going to be, is it good or not? I think that coding is overcomplicated by most people. Yes, it's hard and requires dedication. I'm definitely one of the overcomplicators. I think that it just takes a lot of experience and a lot of effort a lot of practice. It's like any skill. Like playing guitar, you have to play guitar for years before you can feel really comfortable with it. Burning binary code into computer chips that can be erased and reused. Holy cow. Is that what like, that's like flashing data onto a card and then running it? Is that how like old NES games or N64 games, because they're like big chipsets, and I imagine in order to test it they would actually have to do that? Or before cards, how about like arcade machines? Because my dad has it's not a MAME, what is it, it's this big motherboard, and the whole motherboard itself is an arcade machine, and we have an arcade cabinet and we can swap out that board for the different games, and it's just a different board per game. That was for arcade machines, in fact. Okay, I see. Yeah, I imagine like the whole landscape of video game hardware and software, and well, obviously everything's different, but hardware especially, like you're saying words that I don't even understand, which is so crazy. Things are so different today, where hardware isn't as much of a factor. People just play games on like their phones. Like we're entering the age of cloud gaming almost, where people are going to play games on their TVs, where like the TV itself is going to be the console, and it just connects remotely to a cloud server that's running the game. 3D pool and a concept game called Punky Doodle by Sunsoft. That sounds awesome. That sounds really cool. It's really cool to hear about what game development was like way back in the day. It's so crazy to see how much gaming has changed in a few decades. That is such a weird thing to think about, is like we're still in like the early ages. As it still feels like we're in the early phases of games. Like, you think 100 years, that's not very much time. 100 years ago, that wasn't that long ago, but 100 years from now, games are going to be wildly different. AI is about to cook us. I think AI will change things for sure. That's definitely going to be a factor. Yeah, earlier in the stream, I kind of alluded to this, but with the Game Awards, there's been some drama regarding Expedition 33 and regarding Larian and Divinity, and involving the Indie Game Awards, which is the AI rant. I'm going to keep the rant to a very minimum, but all I'm going to say is that people are definitely... Gaming has only been popular for about 4 years now. It's not that long time. Yeah, and exactly. Is this the game? This is so cute. I love the art style. I love this render of the 3D renders of the characters. Oh, they don't have actual screenshots. These are like camera shots of someone's computer. That is so cool. So did this not ever come out? It says canceled on a lot of these. Classic mage style game, single screen. One prototype of the machine was built. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so clarify, this is a Japanese game. Were you working in the Japanese studio, or were you working on a localization studio? Or is it a different branch located in a different country? Because this is really interesting to hear about. In San Antonio. Awesome, that's so cool. I want to read more about Sunsoft because the name sounds really familiar. What do you think their most famous game ever made was? Because out of these, I'm not recognizing these. 1985. Dang, they are old school. That is so cool. Cool. They put out games like Arrow the Acrobat. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not familiar. This is really neat. Yeah, it's really cool having you in the audience telling us about like real world game production. And not only that, real world game production before it was like so mainstream. This, like, hearing about your work on a game like this, that is wild. Very, very cool. To get in so early, because this is way before games were super mainstream. Where today, here's my comparison. Today, the Game Awards that just happened had more live viewers than the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl, in my perspective, is the most watched live event in the country every single year. The Game Awards had more live viewers than that. So that tells me that gaming has become so mainstream that it's like night and day. It's even more mainstream than sports is. And this came out before everyone was so interested in it. I implemented sprite sheet animation with Monkey Doodle more than 30 years ago. That is unbelievable. That is really, really cool. A 2-minute unskippable ad. That's horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. Maybe you can refresh and get rid of it. Yeah, that's a bummer. But I keep going on lots of different rants, but I was also going to mention that the code for that website, this Syntax Station site, is open source. So if you go to Syntax Station, all the code is here. So if ever you need a reference for like however I did something on the site, I wouldn't call this site that good though. There's a big problem with the site. Okay, all of this code is good, like the index.html. This is all good, but the problem is I didn't implement this wisely, where each of these individual languages are just individual HTML files with their own like bulk tags. It's not good. So there's like this language file, and I can go into like the C# file, and it's basically like a copy paste of each one. The code snippets are unique. But a better way to implement the site would be to use some kind of like JavaScript or some way to render the different languages per page without needing to actually load a whole new HTML page. Because now I had to like copy over the header and the footer. It's not very well implemented. So even though this code is open source and it's worth looking at, I think the languages file. Let's just not take a look at that one. Let's take a look at something else. Chalice so amazed by old games. I am, because games are easy to make now, and they were not easy to make back then. I say easy is I wouldn't say games are easy to make, but compared to the process that Old School Geek went through all the way back in the day, it's so much easier. The stuff I'm doing on stream is like child's play compared to the stuff that they would have to do back in that San Antonio office 30 years ago. Like, that's way more complex. That's why I'm so interested in it. And also, I'm interested in what the corporate world is like, because if I'm being honest, I do kind of miss being in an office and hearing what things are going on. Because here's one thing, is since I left Microsoft before generative AI was even useful. So we didn't use it at all while I was there. I don't know at all what the corporate world is like when it comes to AI. I wonder if like all my teammates are using it now. They might. It's just weird to think about that when I was working there, we didn't use it at all. And now I almost wonder if they're using it a lot. That's how much things are changing. It's only been a couple years. I left Microsoft in 2023, by the way. So it's only been a couple years. And I bet generative AI was out around that time, but it wasn't good and nobody used it. At least no one that I worked with. Do I miss working at Microsoft? Yeah, I kind of do. I miss going into the office because when COVID hit, I started working remotely until the end of my career. And I never enjoyed that very much. I always liked going into the office. I do miss it. I miss Microsoft. I miss going into the office. But this is the way it is. Would I be willing to move states for a corp job? I have. Yeah, so I was born in Illinois, and I went to college in Illinois, and I tried so hard to get a job in Illinois because I wanted to be close to home, and I was not able to. I tried so hard, and I was so active in applying to every job I could possibly find. I could not find a single job in the state. So I started applying elsewhere. I applied to lots of different states, and that's how I got my job at Boeing, which was located in Missouri. So I had to leave the state and move to Missouri and work there for a while. And again, I applied for Microsoft and moved to Seattle and Washington and moved states again. So I moved states a bunch of times in order to work for different positions. It's definitely a big sacrifice to make, but it's something that a lot of people do. And if you're able to do it in order to get that paycheck, it's worth it, at least to get the foot in the door, or get something on your resume that's really valuable, I think. If you end up in Washington, let me know. It would be awesome to meet you. Yeah, I lived there for a couple years. Are you working full-time on my game? I'm working full-time on this game, but I wouldn't call it like, it's not generating income right now. I moved countries for it, and I'm glad I did. That's a huge move. I've never done that. That would be a very, very big move, but I'm definitely, I agree that in certain circumstances, in certain circumstances and in certain countries, I bet that would be the best thing to do, because, you know, I bet that the job opportunities are just better in some countries compared to others. I was born in Lake Forest, Illinois. Really? And Dad drove the city bus in Chicago. That's so cool. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I live in Peoria, which is quite a ways away from Chicago, but I go to Chicago all the time. That's really neat. What do I think about Scratch? Scratch is awesome. I used to teach Scratch for a, when I worked at Microsoft, I did a volunteering code high school class that I taught, and we used Scratch. It was either Scratch or something that was basically the same thing as Scratch. But, you know, the drag and drop coding languages, because I learned game development using that. I learned game development using Game Maker, and that is very similar to Scratch, where you drag the different components to create logic strings, and it's awesome. I really love it. And Juniper Dev has a really fun video about doing a game in Scratch. Yeah, I saw that one. That's a good one. Do I have experience only in game dev or in other branches as well, like web dev? Yes. When I worked at Boeing, it was embedded software, and when I worked at Microsoft, it was web development. It was mostly front-end web development, but I did still do full stack stuff with C# and TypeScript. So I have, in fact, most of my experience, all of my working experience, is not in games. I never worked in games before, not once. All of my game development knowledge and experience is self-taught just from making a bunch of games my whole life. Were I referring to Snap? Yes, Snap is what we used. Snap, it was just like a website. It was all built in, and you could run the game in the browser, and it was super, super convenient. They had us make like one of those mouse finding cheese sims. That's cool. How would you hire and find people to help with the game? How would you pay them or trust them to do a good job? So currently, the people that I hire for the game are artists. And Wolf helps with moderating, and yeah, so it's mostly artists. And the way I hire artists is I browse their portfolio of whatever stuff they have. Like Ellie had a Twitter, and Tony had, I think Tony was just a mod on the Discord server, and so we just started chatting, and he showed me all of his artwork. And there's another artist, Beowulf, who's doing tiles for the game. How did I find him? I think I found him through Twitter as well. Hey, I don't want to do self-promo, but I've enjoyed seeing your game on YouTube and would love to contribute by composing some music for it. I appreciate you offering, but unfortunately, I'm doing all the music myself. I'm a big fan of music as well, and this project being so personal to me, I want to do the music. I think that music might be the most requested thing to collab on, because there's a lot of musicians out there, and music is a really, really fun aspect of the game. But I also think that breaking into music in games might be the hardest aspect. The reason why is because, speaking personally, on the development of this game, and I understand that the music's not done, but if I had to put a percentage on what work was done for this game, it would be 50% coding, 30% art. I might change this. I might say 45% code, 45% art, and the remaining 10% is distributed among sound effects and writing and music. And what else would there be? That's the main thing. So what I'm getting at is, unfortunately, music is a very small segment of that pie. And since it's such a small segment, that means that there's fewer opportunities to apply for, and like for me specifically, there are no opportunities in my game to do music because I'm going to be doing it myself. But if there were people that had like a bunch of pixel art, there's a lot more room for pixel art related work to collab on compared to room for music related work, if that makes sense. Enjoy my last Christmas of 2025. I will. Foxshire, Merry Christmas. Hope the holidays treat you well. Thank you. Appreciate that. My game dev time in the very near future will be focused on sound effects / music using DAW Reaper. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of music production and a big fan of sound effects. I've been using doing sound effect stuff pretty much exclusively in Audacity, just because all the features that I need are in here. I'm able to take some raw synth sound and then add a whole bunch of like crazy effects and distortion to it in order to get whatever I'm looking for. But if I think about like what is the composition of a game studio, like a team that's making a game, I would say there would need to be 3 or 4 programmers before there's a musician. Just because the amount of work that's needed in the coding space is like 5x the amount that's needed in the audio space. It makes total sense, and yeah, it's kind of tough. I've been making music for a while for work on film, but been wanting to start video games even as passion projects just because I love gaming. Yeah, I'm totally with you. That is kind of where I started as well. In fact, I think the very first song that I made was using LMMS, and it was a song for Tropical Spirit. I'm actually gonna go ahead and pull it up because I have it. Okay, I'm gonna open up Tropical Spirit, and this is gonna be the last thing we do for stream because it's past time. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up. And I'm gonna pause the music so we can hear my song. Okay, so this is Tropical Spirit. This is the first game for Love 2D that I ever published. It's not the first game that I ever made with Love 2D, but this is a mobile game, and you might recognize it. It's just Necrozone. So if you didn't know, Necrozone was this game first. I made this game called Tropical Spirit first, and then I'm like, okay, this game's kind of bad. I'm gonna redo it and make it into a game called Necrozone. But when I made this Tropical Spirit game, I made the music myself, and I think that it's gonna play if I... Okay, it is playing. It's just really quiet. I wouldn't call this very impressive. You can definitely sound, it sounds like mid-eye. It works for the game. It totally works for the game. I think it's great. Can you jam to that song? Yes. Jam. I love that. It's good though. I do get what you mean, but I like it works for the game, and that's the important. Yeah, exactly. I think it's good for a first song, and I think it's good for this game. I think it matches the level of quality in the game, and I think it works. And that being said, like I go back and listen to it, I'm like, ugh, I forgot to add effects to it, and the mixing's off, and the instruments are horrible mid-eye, and it's definitely just like a C major chord progression that's super basic, and I don't really think it's that interesting, but it does accomplish what it's trying to do. And it is pretty good. It's not bad. So on that note, I'm going to call it a day. This was a very good stream. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And I will be back next week. Thank you all to Pekka Cat and Blackleaf Tree, Rick Carlson, Dan, Adele. Thank you so much for being here. Wolf, I'm a Gene Thresh, Dan Risboltail. Sorry if I can't pronounce your names well. I'm trying my best. But I will be back next week. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you then. Bye, everyone.